One does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus heard about the death of John the Baptist, he withdrew in a boat to a deserted place by himself. The crowds heard of this and followed him on foot from their towns. When he disembarked and saw the vast crowd, his heart was moved with pity for them, and he cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples approached him and said, "This is a deserted place, and it is already late. Dismiss the crowd so that they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." He said to them, "There is no need for them to go away. Give them some food yourselves." But they said to him, 5 loaves and 2 fish are all we have here." Then he said, "Bring them here to me." And he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied, and they picked up the fragments left over, 12 wicker baskets full. Those who ate were about 5,000 men, not counting women and children. The Gospel of the Lord. This story of the feeding of the 5,000 is one that we've been hearing a lot lately. We heard it not this past Sunday, but 2 Sundays ago. We heard John's account, which is something that we hear every third year. We kind of interrupt the Gospel of Mark, and we have John for about 6 weeks. This story of the feeding of the 5,000 must have been pretty impressive to the Gospel writers and certainly to the early church, because it's one of the few stories, you can only count a few of them, that appears in every single Gospel: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And each of the Gospel writers emphasize something slightly different in their account of the feeding of the 5,000. So, for example, in the Gospel that we heard today, in Matthew is writing primarily to an audience of converts from Judaism. They're Christian converts. And if you are in the mind of a Jewish person, he emphasizes things like the fact that Jesus goes up on a mountain. Right? The mountain would be evocative of the Old Testament, where Moses goes up the mountain to encounter God, to receive the law, to receive the commandments. Right? That would have stuck out to a Jewish audience. And it should stick out to us as well. We come to encounter God. We come to encounter him in his word. We come to encounter him in the gathered church, the people of God who are assembled. We come to encounter him in the person of the priest, hopefully. We come to encounter him superabundantly in the Holy Eucharist, which we celebrate. The other part of this account that should stick out to us from Matthew's Gospel is the fact that Jesus goes from having only a few loaves of bread and 2 fish to having a superabundance. There's not only enough to feed the whole crowd, but there's enough left over. That is to say, when we encounter God, he fulfills every one of our hungers, our physical hungers certainly, but also our spiritual hungers, and then some. His grace is super abundant in our lives. And those are things that we should remember when we come here to Mass, to encounter God. We come before him with all of our hungers, and we place them before him, and we say, "Lord, I know that you can feed me. I know that you can fulfill every desire of my heart. And so I place all of these things before you. Feed me, nourish me, give me the gift of your grace." to fill every possible longing of my heart.